How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the Artisans of Steel podcast. This is where I get to talk to some of the coolest makers I'm aware of. Some are friends, some are new friends to me. Like today's guest, I've met Abie Lyons once. We've been chatting online for a long time, and this is an opportunity for me to get to know her better, as well as for you. But before we get into the interview and the conversation, we're just going to talk really quick about our super sponsors this month. First, we have Eric Kidwell of District 202 LLC. He's a really great guy. He's based out of Maryland, and I get to see him at the Travis Wirtz Hammer-In basically every March I go, and I'm excited to see him again next year. He's always a point man at that Hammer-In, and he's just like such a clutch person to have. He's always in there with the camera, helping to create a second viewpoint, because they have a secondary like TV going while the Hammer-In or demonstrations are going. So while somebody's grinding, say, you can actually see what they're doing rather than staring at their back. So Eric's a great guy. Go give him a follow. He's on Instagram at District 202 LLC. Next, we have Josh Weston. Josh Weston is on Instagram at Josh A. Weston, also as at Dragon Forge EXP. That's short for the Dragon Forge Experience. They're up in Franken something, Michigan. Hold on, I gotta pull it up real quick. They're up doing their thing, doing the forging, and so they are going to be doing forging in. Oh gosh, I totally dropped the ball on this. Oh, there he is. This is Dragon Forge Black. Okay, they're Frankenmuth, Michigan. They're doing a bunch of forging over, the next month throughout August. It looks like basically every weekend they have all kinds of forging classes, whether it's a Warhammer or an axe class. And they have some of their forges set up. You get to go and do that thing. Otherwise, outside of the forging experience with the Dragon Forge experience, as well as with the Bavarian blacksmith experience, which you can find online, BavarianBlacksmithExperience.com for more information about that. Josh is a great guy. He's an incredibly talented artist. He's an awesome follow on Instagram, so make sure you're following him for a lot of very whimsical and Viking inspired, or kind of Lord of the Ring, elvish kind of fun fantasy kind of stuff. He does a really great job, and he's a great, like I said, a really great guy. Go give him a follow again at Josh A. Weston, as well as at Dragon Forge EXP. Next, we have Russell Tinsley. He is at Can't Make Knives on Instagram, as well as at Ouzel Finch Beers. Ouzel Finch Beers is he's the owner and one of the operators of the brewery. They're based in Virginia. I can't remember what fort they're based out of. There's an old fort that they're at, and they have a whole tasting room and everything. If you're in the area, go check them out. If you have a local beer market, if they don't already carry the Ouzel Finch beers, talk to the purchaser, the buyer, about getting some Ouzel Finch beers in. They're super delicious, and they're crazy. They're so crazy. They have kind of like boozy sodas, they call them, because, you know, like people do the hard seltzers and stuff. But these sodas that they make remind me of like the orange soda and the grape soda and stuff like that you would drink growing up, but it's for grown-ups. But they also have wild flavors, like out-of-the-box flavors, like peanut butter, and like they had a lemon bar one a while back. They also specialize in sours. They're awesome. They're super awesome, super delicious and tasty, and you deserve some tasty deliciousness if you partake. Again, you can find Russell's knife making work on Instagram at Can't Make Knives, as well as the beer, the Ouzel Finch Beers. That's OOZLEFINCH Beers on Instagram. Go give him a follow, go check him out, give him a taste. Next up, we have Dan Hubbs. He's 6'6" Mountain Knives. I got to see and meet, well, not meet, I guess I got to see Dan again, because I actually met him before, previously in a class that I was teaching last September. He's a really great guy. He's also, he's a gentle giant. I believe he said he was 6'7". He's a pretty tall guy, but he's doing some great work, and his Damascus work is phenomenal. Actually, when I saw him at Blade Show, the work that he had on his table was as good or better than most Damascus you can find at the show. He definitely should be in the judging rooms, trying to get some of those awards because his work is pretty damn phenomenal. So go give him a follow on Instagram. Again, he's at the numbers 66 Mountain Knives, and yeah, see what he's up to. He's doing all kinds of creative stuff, and his finish work on his steel is phenomenal. All right, next up we have Lawrence Lake. He's Maritime Knife Supply on Instagram. You can find him on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Maritime Knife Supply, as well as online, maritimeknifesupply.com. He actually is one of the sponsors of the Great Lake Knife Show, which is happening August 17th. So make sure you go check that out. August 17th in Godric, Ontario, Canada's largest knife show on Lake Huron. You can also find more information about the show at Great Lakes Custom Knife Show. That's a brain bender. It's pretty straightforward. Makes sense. So go find them online. Great Lakes Custom Knife Show. And as you're getting ready for the show, if you need anything, I just hit my face on the microphone, I think. If you need anything, go to maritimeknifesupply.com and get all your knife making needs met so that you can make some great knives for that Great Lakes Custom Knife Show. Finally, or not finally, next we have Gabe Fletcher of Anchorage Brewing at Anchorage Brewing on Instagram, as well as at Anchorage Forge, which is his maker page. Anchorage beers from Anchorage Brewing are some of the best beers I've ever tasted in my entire life. And they are widely distributed. So go to your local beer market, specialty beer market, or wherever, see if you can find some. Again, if they don't have it, talk to the buyer about getting things straightened out and get some of the Anchorage Brewing beers in, because they are freaking phenomenal. And then go follow Gabe on at Anchorage Forge, his maker page, where he is doing also really incredible Damascus work. He has a mosaic Damascus blade that he just forged out, I think just last week, that has a combination. It's like it's the Waria Tetsu approach to making a pattern, and it incorporates a jelly roll along the edge, as well as these gradient, like, I don't know, almost kind of fern or feather kind of elements. And it's friggin' awesome. You got to go see it. So go check them out at Anchorage Forge on Instagram. It's phenomenal stuff. And then finally, we are excited to welcome back Mr. Tony Sazma. He's TNT Forge on Instagram. Another great guy. Lately, as well as the knife making work that he's been doing, he is doing end grain cutting boards, and they're beautiful. So make sure you go check that out. Go give him a follow. Get a hold of one of these boards. Especially as for me, as somebody who loves to cook, I think there's nothing more important besides the quality of the ingredients as a quality knife and the work surface that you're working on to cut the food up and prepare your meal. All those things are integral to creating a delicious food, as well as to enhancing the experience for it to be a lot more enjoyable, and also to just have beautiful stuff in your house. So go give Tony Sazma a follow at TNT Forge on Instagram. Okay. We did it. We got through the sponsors. I'm gonna pull Abie in here, and I just want to say, Abie, your work is so great. Hi. I've been following your work. Gosh, I don't know, like 3, 4, maybe 5. I don't even know how long you've been making knives for, but
crazy.
I think about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Is when I first came across your work, and I loved how straightforward, like, it just made sense. There wasn't a bunch of glitz and glamoury things to try to make it like not to hate on that stuff, but I'm a big fan of utilitarian, high quality, well-made things.
Yeah,
they don't need all the extra stuff to kind of like sell it and stuff like that. Again, some of that extra stuff, like even my Damascus patterns, right? Sometimes you're like, that's a little extra, I guess you could call it, but it's all part of it. But anyways, there's nothing wrong with it, but I love the cleanliness of your work, and I've really admired it for a long time. I don't know much about you. We just met actually last year for the first time at Blade Show. I was very sad that you weren't there, but I understand everybody's got their own stuff going on. But I'm excited to have you in here right now. to chat with you really more than anything, get to know you and get to
Totally.
know your story and your journey a little better, and for you to share that as well with the audience. You're one of very few women that I'm aware of that make knives.
Yes.
You were just featured in this year's Artisans of Steel
Yes.
calendar.
So
you were the
crazy.
opener. You were the
Thank
opener
you.
for the June
June babies.
yeah, and yeah. While like I could probably. There were definitely enough women to fill the calendar,
Yeah.
and probably at least 2, but outside of that, like, I
Yeah.
don't know, there aren't
Crazy.
really a lot of women. So I'm interested to kind of get some of your take on women, and I know that you've been featured in Blade magazine for talking about like, and actually Blade University, I think, as well, talking about women in knife making. And so it'd be cool to hear some of that.
Totally.
But more than anything, I just want to start out by saying thank you for being here and joining us.
Having me. Yeah, I'm so excited. Gosh, where do we start?
We start with, what kind of guitars are those in the background?
So this is my Flying V I got when I was probably 7.
Is that a Jackson? Does Jackson make that? I can't remember.
Oh gosh, nope. F something with an E.
Okay.
I don't know. And then my nieces in the middle, and then I got my Gretsch for my 16th birthday. And
wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So apparently you've been playing guitar for a while.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yep. Just a little bit. But yes, very fun.
Yeah.
Let's start. Where do we start?
We start with
the beginning.
We start at the beginning. Okay. So I did on your bio, kind of on your website, which is ajblades.com. Yeah. ajblades.com. You talk about growing up in California. What was that like? What I guess what we want to eventually get to is how you started making knives, but what is it in your life as you're growing up, and what you're doing within your family and outside of the family, just to like that help to lead in that direction? Knife making is a very hands-on kind of creative and problem solving thing. Was that something that you always did growing up? Like, what were you like as a kid growing up, and some of your early influences that helped to kind of lead to where you are now making knives, or at least where you started making knives?
Yes. Okay, so I'm the youngest of 5 kids. And my mom and dad homeschooled us all the way through. I think my oldest sister went to like preschool, but then she cut some girl's hair and my mom's like, you're out. So we were homeschooled all growing up. And so we just got to be home and be in the shop with my dad. My dad can do literally anything. He was an offshore welder. He worked in the oil fields. He mined when he was out of high school. He was a logger. And then he drove the ladder truck for Station 1 in Bakersfield City for almost 30 years. And so we just were taught that, you can do anything you set your mind to. Sure. And the girls especially and I hate making it like, oh, we're girls, blah, blah, blah. But like, Dad's like, you can do anything the boys can do. It doesn't mean you should, but if you want to do something, you can do it. And so just having that like mindset from an early age, I was just one of the boys. It goes my 2 oldest sisters, and then I have 2 brothers and me. And the age difference from me and my oldest sister is 15 years. So by the time I was like, 5 or 6, they were already married and out of the house. So it was just me and my brothers basically. And so we just got to, play in the shop with Dad. Dad taught us to weld. We would just sit there and weld our name at like 7 or 8 years old, and so it was super fun. And so I think just being in the shop, it was just like, you just work with your hands, you play army outside and you make mud pies, and then you weld in the shop with Dad, and you fix the cars and you change the oil on the motorcycles. And that's just what we did as kids. And so then my brother and me as well for a little bit got into competition shooting at our local range. And we would do, long rifle, pistols. And we did that for a while, but Jesse has really progressed. And there was some match in Meridian this week that he got first place. Oh, wow. Like he's incredible. And so he definitely progressed in that. And so with that, him and my dad decided to open up a firearms manufacturing shop. And so they, in California, they would mill out uppers, and I'm spacing on lots of the technical names, but
No
they
worries.
would do, knife. They would do gun work, and they would, customize anything you wanted.
Sure.
And so being there, I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing the gun stuff, but it's not my forte. And so with that, I was like, what can I do in the shop with the boys? And guns and knives just go hand in hand,
for sure.
feels like. And so we're like, okay, like maybe I can make knives. And up until that point, I was listening to your podcast with Jordan Lamoth, and he was talking about how when he was growing up, like the only thing he knew about knives was what he read in like the Field and Stream magazine or whatever magazine he said. And that was totally how I grew up. Like I did not know anything besides the knives at my gas station, but I would carry them, and I love knives. And so it was like total eye opener. Like, what is this world, when we started digging and got the opportunity. We would, before I started making knives, my dad and I would watch Knife Making Tuesdays, the Grimsmo brothers.
Oh, I don't know that.
Yes. They're like their old video, John and Eric Grimsmo from Canada.
Okay.
It was like their early, because they do lots of like YouTube videos. It was their early stuff where they were like, we don't really know what we're doing, but this is Knife Making Tuesdays and we're in the shop and this is what we're dealing with. And so it was encouraging to just be like, okay, like they're starting out too. And like, if you see them now, they're incredible. They make amazing knives. And so that was super fun to just be in the shop with my dad, doing that. And then we would go to, with the gun business, we would go to SHOT Show every year in Vegas. And so there's like the bigger knife companies there. And so we met Lucas Burnley, I think it was 2017, and just told him like, hey, we're thinking about making knives. I really have no idea. At that point, I was like trying to grind a knife with like any grinder I had, and it was just failing. And so I was like, I don't know if I can do this. It looks easy, but I can't. And so Lucas was like, you need to go to Blade Show. It's like SHOT Show, but for knives. I'm like, awesome. So we went to Blade Show, I think it was 2017, and saw Lucas, and he was like, you need to find somebody who is in your area that can help you. Right. And the closest person, so we were Bakersfield, so we were Central California, right up in the mountains out of Bakersfield. And the closest person he knew was Bob Terzuola.
Oh.
And like I said, I had no idea about anything to do with knives. And so he's like, let me give my friend a call. Let me give Bob a call. I'm like, okay, Bob sounds like an old man. Let's do this. So, and so we left Blade Show, stayed up all day flying, drove to see Bob. And Bob actually let us, back up. We took Blade University classes, and it's so funny that you were talking about the hammering, because you're like, we were watching them grind knives, and we were just looking at their backs, and they were like, and you see, like, and we're gonna do this, and I'm like, what are we doing? We spent money on these classes, and I don't know what you're saying. But rough. I know. So I'm like writing notes. But then we get to Bob's shop, which now I know he like doesn't ever let anybody in his shop, which is he just Bob. He does let people, but yes.
I only know him by name. I've never met him, but from what I understand, he's kind of a legendary knife maker.
Yes.
For people who don't know, can you talk about who Bob is, or I guess your experience with Bob and kind of like who you found out that he is, what he's
Yes,
known for. Because
totally. So, coming to his shop, he was so gracious, and he's like, do you have any designs? I'm like, no, I'm a knife maker. I don't even know what the design I want to do. So he, was like, well, where do you live? What do you do? And at that point I worked at a rafting company.
oh, nice.
We live right on the Kern River. And so, rafting shops everywhere. And so if you're a raft guide, it's mandatory that you have a knife on you. And so I'm like, that would just be cool to make, knives for raft guides. And so he helped me design my first knife, which is the river knife, with that sheep's foot tip on it.
You mean like this one?
That one. That's crazy. And it's actually so funny. I took this knife to the USN, and I still have it in my shop to just, like, this is where I came from. That blade is like, I'm not joking, a 1/4 inch thick. we tried to.
Okay. It's tough.
It's my butter knife. You can't do anything. There's no cutting anything on it. But it's great to be like, hey, this is where we came from, and these handles are blocky. But yes, so that was my first one. So Bob, designed it, and then we went home. We're like, homework, this is good. But while we were there, he was like, I think I want to mentor you. Is that okay? And I was like, I still have no idea who this man is. I'm like, okay, Bob, like, we pulled up to your shop in this like strip mall, and now you want to be my mentor. I don't know who you are. And so he's like, I would love to do this. We exchange numbers. I'm like, this is great. Get in the car, Google Bob. And I'm like, you have got to be freaking kidding me. This man he's a legend. He is the godfather of tactical folding knives. That's like his title, apparently. Right. And there's this magazine. There's this picture of him, and it's like, oh gosh, I'm spaced. This is so funny. I was homeschooled. Sorry, Mom. What is the monument with all the presidents?
Rushmore.
Yeah, he's on Rushmore with like all the godfathers of knife making, and he's on there. I'm like, oh, you're on Rushmore, and so that's who Bob is. And so, from there, we texted Bob a lot and had so many questions. And my dad made me a jig. I don't have it. I should have got it. I also learned that a lot of knife makers who use jigs don't like to tell people that they use jigs because I don't know why. I'm like, if you use a jig, just say you use a jig. It's fine all night. Like, if you're making the product, it's, you're making it. I have shaky hands. So I'm like, jig is helping me out a lot. And even with a jig, I'm like, those lines are everywhere sometimes.
For sure.
And
let's dispel the issue with jigs.
Yes.
Jigs are not a problem, people.
Yes.
Jigs are not a problem. There's nobody's giving you gold stars or certificates because you freehand ground something. That's good for you. That's a personal achievement.
Yes.
But the finished knife what's important is that the finished knife is of good quality, grinds, performance, heat treatment.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. It basically doesn't matter how it gets there as long as the finished product is really good. If you use jigs, great. If you do freehand, great. But you're not getting gold stars. You're not getting extra high fives. I'm sorry. So don't hate on the jigs.
I know.
It's like getting mad at somebody for using a power hammer for forging Damascus.
I know.
Why are you being such a weenie? Why don't you just use a hand hammer and a anvil?
It's a crack up. And there are some people like that too. And I'm like, why are we talking about this right now? But it's very funny. Very
jigs
funny. So yes, jigs are great. My dad made one. Like I said, he can do anything. And so like, Dad, this is what I need. And he's got a Haas TM1 CNC machine, and he, draws everything up in CAD, and just he's the best. But what was I saying? Okay, jig, got my jig, and then it somehow managed to make that knife that you showed, and And I took that to, it's so funny. I showed people that knife. Looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, crazy. And so we went to, Bob invited us to the.
This is a later iteration, I think. Let's see. I'm going to pull it up real quick just to share.
Yes.
Is it still a quarter inch there? Or did you pull
no,
that down
she's down. Yep. So great. Yeah.
No, but that makes sense because, and you said described it earlier as like a sheep's hoof, but
yes,
essentially it's a blunted point so that it's, if you're rafting, so you don't accidentally just right into the side of the raft, right?
Yes. And I've had people call it a sheep's foot, which I had thought, but then I had some guy at Blade Show a few years ago. He's like, that is not a sheep's foot. I'm like, okay. And then he had some other name for it. And I was like, okay, whatever you want to call it, you can call it whatever you want. It's a knife and you won't stab yourself. That's basically it.
Gosh, people getting super prescriptive is funny because
I know
it's very rare that you need to be prescriptive. It's where like it's maybe the edge geometry based on how it's going to be used, or the heat treatment. Again, kind of based on how it's going to be used.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's actually a surprising amount of flexibility, and people are just like, has to be this, has to be that. That's not a sheep's foot. That's whatever.
Literally.
Okay, let's call it an American Eagle beak.
I know. Like, what do you want from me? But so took that knife to the USN, and
which is also in Vegas, right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I think it's like, I feel like August, maybe.
Okay.
I haven't been in a few years, but it's just a smaller show, and they do like a lot of lotteries.
What does USN stand for again?
Usual Suspects Network.
Okay.
But I call it the Unusual Suspects Network.
Oh, the unusual. Okay.
I don't know if it's usual or usual. It's been too long now, and I'm afraid to check, but it's one of one of them. Yeah.
Okay.
And so went there, and Bob let me help him out with his lottery, and he was like, this is Abie, and she's my protege. And I'm like, Bob, I'm showing you these knives, and I don't think you should be telling people that yet. But he was so gracious, and he took me around to just so many cool makers, and they all gave me very good feedback, which is such a great thing in the knife world. Because like growing up in the gun world, there's a lot of guys who are like, this is what I do, and I'm not telling you how I do it because this is mine. And you're like, okay, but like help a brother out. And they're like, no. And the knife world is like, this is where I screwed up, but I figured this out. And we're like, okay, I did that too. And so it's been so cool just being in a community that's like, I can't take anything with me, so I'm giving you all my knowledge, and we're going to go from there. And to have like all of these guys be like, I want you to do better than me is crazy. Cause I'm like, first of all, there's no way I could, but thank you for believing, and like, thank you for sharing. And so Bob has just totally been that. Wow. And then from the USN, I just started making my blades thinner and thinner, thankfully. And they finally got to cut things. And so from there,
the redesign, the second generation of
second gen. She's the slim version. And so then I think my next SHOT Show I went to, I wanted to carry a knife, and I'm a smaller person, and so I wasn't making folding knives yet, and so I'm like, I gotta carry something small because they're just fixed blades. And so I made the baby back. I don't know if you have a picture. It's the little cute one that's got a little hump on it. But I made that for myself and took it to, and at this point I still had not made knives for anybody else. I was just like, nobody's going to buy it, and I'm not going to sell these because we're still working on them. But I took that to a SHOT Show, and I'll never forget, I was walking down one of the aisles, and this guy yelled at me, and he was like, hey, where'd you get that knife? And I was like, well, I made it. And he's like, well, I want to buy one. And I was like, it was the first time a stranger was like, I want to buy a knife. And I thought that was the craziest thing. I think I almost cried. And
awesome.
so, yes, Thomas Tupin, I still remember his name. And he
what
bought,
a name.
I know. And he bought, I think he's bought a few knives from me now. And that was just like, oh my gosh, I could do this. Like, I could do this for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And so I, started making baby backs. I think I have like 5 or 6 designs now, but for me, like with how I started with knives and not knowing a lot, and then being in the community, and realizing there's a lot of people like me that are like, I want to get involved, but I don't know how, or even collectors that are like, I love knives, but I don't have money to spend. I have loved just being like, I make the base layer custom knives. Like, they're just, my handle material is not fancy. I just use CPM 154 stainless steel. Like, it's straight over the plate, but it's custom and you can use it. And so, I feel like,
which is the most important part.
Yes, you can.
That it's actually a tool.
Yes. And so I feel like and it sounds bad, but it's not, I'm not meaning it to sound bad, but it's like base layer custom knives that you can use. And it's been cool because, a lot of knives, you're like, this is custom and it's in my shelf because I'm not touching it. Nobody is allowed to use it. And although I love that and I would love to have pieces like that someday, it's like, I just want people to use them, cut stuff, even if it's just boxes, use it. And so, from there I had yet to get a table at Blade Show, but
I see some brown bagging.
Huh?
No, I'm just joking. I said so you were brown bagging.
I was.
Oh, you were.
I was. Is
okay,
that what it's
I
called?
forgive you. You have my forgiveness. Not that you don't need anybody's forgiveness.
Thank you.
It's just part of the show.
I had a few knives that I was like, I'll just bring and see. Yeah. And so I sold them in the pit. And I'm like, this is crazy to me that people want these. And so then I'm like, okay, working up and got my table. I think that must have been 2019 at Blade Show. Yeah. And then I don't remember how many knives I brought, but I don't think I sold even half of them. Okay. And I was like, what the heck? Like, it's just a shot to your heart. But through all of this, like, when I met Lucas Burnley the first time, I also met Darren Sorois, who is a maker. He has designed knives for CRKT. And so then I saw him at the USN and then Blade Show again. And finally we were like, I keep seeing you at these places, like, want to be friends. And he has been the coolest. And he's like, Abie, like, you're doing good. He's like, some people have tables and they don't sell any. And he's like, he's like, it's just baby steps.
I never sold anything at a show.
Serious?
Oh, sorry. I sold one knife at one show out of multiple shows that I've gone to.
Really?
Yeah, it's just how it goes.
That's surprising.
Well, I think it's the venue. Because
it definitely is.
Nowadays, Blade Show is a little different for culinary knife makers. But when I was first starting out, nobody cared about my culinary knives.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But
wrong audience.
Right. Yes. Feel that. I know.
It's like selling cheeseburgers at a vegan fair or something like
Literally. That. I have people in town that they're like, just get a table at a crafts fair. I'm like, I don't want to pay money to not make any money because it's just not going to happen. But so I did that. And then I've been a few more times. We did not go, what was it, 2020?
Sure. I think a lot of people didn't.
Did we go 2020?
I think it was canceled.
Was it canceled?
I think it's canceled 2020.
And then, just been going every year except for this last year. I had the opportunity. I got a full-time staff position at our church here in Coeur d'Alene. And so I oversee our student ministry or our student worship team.
Okay.
And so it's just been so cool to like grow these students and their gifts and just their relationship with the Lord. But also it's been a little tough balancing knife making in this season. And so I love that it's my business and I can, you know, work around schedules, but still learning how to work around schedules. And so the knife making has been just a little slower these days, but not stopping for sure. Yeah, I think I answered the question. I don't remember what it was, but
how did
a roller coaster.
What in your life led to you making knives? I think you got it. I have another knife here. I think is part of maybe 1 year earlier designs that I think you still do. Would you call it the chunk?
The chunk. Okay, so backstory on literally really most of the knives. The creativity with the names is pretty base layer, but I love movies. And so this was Chunky. And I'm like, I love the Goonies. And that's Chunk. Like
Chunk. If Chunk was a knife.
If Chunk was a knife, he would be that. And so, yes, that knife has caused me more tears than anything, I feel
Let's hear it.
Okay, so
because there's a few different grinds going on here. I'm gonna say this is not I think it's deceptively complex because there's a lot going on in the blade grinding. That like where lines are staying parallel and they're cut at all the plunges and everything, and you have three different grinds probably at least. So please walk us through it. What's happening here?
Bottom blade, that is hollow ground, which I love hollow grinding. And then that front top piece. And I want anybody who's listening to know I don't know a lot of terms. And so if I say something wrong, just give me grace because I'm years in, but still learning. And like, I'll talk to people at shows and I'm like, you know, that thing, what? They're like the plunge line. I'm like, yeah, that thing, you know, the little hooky thing. Anyways, just give me grace because words are not my specialty. But so bottom is hollow ground and then that front piece is a flat grind. And that connecting those two with and that is not, I hated putting this on my website because those lines did not match. They matched the bottom of the knife and then I sharpened it and that line just
pushes it around.
Pushed it up. And when I did that, because sharpening, it's the last thing you do.
Right.
I just cried. I'm like, what am I doing?
Like, oh no, I just ruined it.
Totally. And I remember, I think it was my second USN. I don't think it was this one, but it was not because it was not half finished. But I took it to Darren Soroyce. He had a table there. Okay. And he was like, Abby, do you have a safe? I was like, yeah, I have a safe. He's like, I want you to put this knife at the very back of the safe and don't touch it for a long time. And I was like, what? Like, why? He's like, because he's like, you're just not there yet. He's like, it's just a hard knife. And so his words, he was not trying to be mean at all, but he was like, I just want to save you a lot of heartache right now. And so I took that as I'm going to make this knife. And so like the next time I saw him, I was like, Darren, look it. And he's like, are you freaking kidding me? And, I don't know, God's grace even got that knife halfway what acceptable.
Maybe some of that and some stubbornness.
Yes, a lot of stubbornness and a lot of coffee.
A lot of coffee, or I guess maybe a stick-to-itiveness might be a better, a nicer way to put it.
Stubborn's pretty good.
Tenacity.
Tenacity, yes. But I love that knife. I love the ring on it. My dad, because we're like, oh, tactical. What if the world ends? So we're like, oh, you can put that, you know, ring on your pinky and then you can shoot a gun and then you can stab people because we're just all about, you know, what happens if the world ends. So it's very, you can, you know, I have the sheath for it and you can put a carabiner on the hook. You can really, there's lots.
Sure.
You can put it on a spear. We're not super conspiracy theorists. I want you to know that. We're not crazy. We're just prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So
be
super
prepared.
Fun. Just be prepared.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
First off, I want to say the same thing happened to me when I first started making knives.
Yes.
Makers would start talking about other kind of like legendary makers, and they could see this kind of like glassed dumb look on my face, and they're like, you don't know who that is? And I'm like, and then they started making fun of me. And I'm like, what? You don't know until you know. I don't know what to tell you. I wasn't born knowing how to drive a car.
Yes. I know.
I wasn't born knowing how to cook an egg. These are things you learn along the way.
My God.
And this is part of it.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, bringing all those lines together is incredibly challenging on a knife like that. I remember, actually, I think it was the first time I only did just like the swage along the spine, and then the normal grind. And when I sharpened the knife, it moved the swage. I was like, I didn't know that was gonna happen. I felt like I totally messed it up.
Yes.
So I feel your pain. And then, but I think the advice of setting things down is really good. It's something I actually still do. I've been making knives for 14 years, and especially when it comes to my own work, I'll be doing something and I will not be happy with it. And I'll keep trying to fuss with it and fix it. And I've learned that when I get to that place and that level of frustration where I'm almost ready to throw it across the shop,
literally,
and to set it down somewhere else, kind of forget about it for a few days, maybe a week, maybe a month, come back to it and look at it again and be like,
what's wrong? Nothing.
Oh, you know what? Maybe that's not that bad, actually.
Totally.
But for whatever reason, like I get in my head and I'm just like, this is the worst.
Literally.
Honestly, I'm probably just having a bet. Maybe I was hungry. Maybe I needed to take a nap or something like that.
Oh, man.
You know, and it's just like, I think though, setting things down and working on I'm sure there's plenty of other stuff to do. Even if you don't have other knives to make, you can clean your shop. Literally. You can do all kinds of stuff, reorganize, do whatever you got to do to give yourself some space away from that work, to come back with a little bit more fresh eyes that aren't so tied up in what's going on that piece, because it can be really hard.
It can.
And I've totally ruined knives trying to push through. Just no, I'm gonna figure it out.
I can do it. Yeah.
And then it just ruins the knife. I'm just like, well,
it does.
Now it's absolutely gone. Now it's totally messed up. And I'm never getting it back. So
yeah, I feel that.
So for sure. Yeah. So Bakersfield.
Yeah.
I went to a family reunion in Bakersfield.
Stop.
When I was 14, 15.
Oh,
my family is like Campbell's, I think.
What kind of Campbell's?
Not the soup.
But do you know their first names?
My grandfather was Chester Campbell.
Chester Campbell. My sister-in-law's a Campbell.
Okay.
I'm writing that down.
Oh my gosh. I wonder if we're somehow
Are we
related. How funny would that be? No, but there was so I remember going down to this family reunion, and when you said Baker City, it was like, that's not Bakersfield. And then you said Bakersfield later, and I was like, wait a second. So I remember going to this family reunion, and I'll have to talk to my mom later today.
Yeah.
I have to call her anyway.
I'm talking to my sister.
And we got there, and we drove all the way from here, from Washington. We drove with 3 kids in the back of a tiny what is it, Chevrolet Cap? I don't even know what it was. It's terrible, little tiny car, compact car. We got there. I did not realize how many there were. there are at least 100 people there. And I was like,
Oh,
who are all these people? I didn't know these people are and I was just like, I didn't talk to anybody
yeah.
except for like maybe my uncles and
Oh
aunt.
man,
I didn't there were tons of people that I didn't know. I grew up
wild.
Mormon, and
Okay.
Mormons are prolific family growers.
Yes, they are.
And so yeah, and I think actually I think my grandfather Chester, or I guess my great
Mhm.
grandfather Chester, he was the one that brought our family to Mormonism.
Got it.
And so it was from there, his daughter, which is my grandmother, and then
Mhm.
my mom, and so on, um, started going to church,
Yeah.
to the Mormon church. And so, but yeah, I wonder if there's a connection somewhere,
That's
somehow.
crazy. I
That's so
can't wait to
funny.
text her.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask
Uncle
my mom too.
Chester? That's wild.
Chester.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chester. Oh gosh, he died when he was or passed away when he was like in his early 90s. But that
Okay.
was when I was like 16. It
Yeah.
was like 20 years ago.
Crazy.
Yeah, he was an old fella.
Crazy.
Anyways, so we might be related. I
We're
don't know.
related.
Cousins
Crazy.
5 times removed or something like that. I don't know how all that works.
I
I'm not
love
good
it.
at
I
that
don't
game.
know either. Oh man.
But your family,
What a
has your
place.
family been there in Bakersfield and
So
for multiple generations, or how does that work?
yes. So my dad's parents, they lived down by like Long Beach, and
Okay.
moved up there when he was, I feel like 5 maybe. And
I
then
got you.
my mom's parents, they had moved around a lot, but she stayed up there when she was younger. And so not generational, but
Okay.
my parents grew up there. It's so cute. My dad can take you to the elementary school. He's like, and your mom was standing on that tile asking her sister for milk money when I saw her for the first time. It's like so
Oh
cute
my
because
God.
it's such a small little
Yeah.
town. So we lived in the mountains right out of Bakersfield.
Okay.
Like at, what is it? I forgot the elevation, but we, just grew up in a little mountain town. And then our
Sure.
closest town was Kernville or Wofford Heights, Lake
I
Isabella,
got you.
right around the lake there. And then we would drive the canyon, we call it, down into Bakersfield, which is like, they deem it like the scariest, dangerous road, something, which we took it, like we had to take our driving test on it. So we were like, it's just the canyon, but people coming, they'll be like, we cannot drive the canyon. Like, it's okay. It's a cliff and there's the river, but you're fine.
Don't go off the cliff.
Don't go off and you'll be fine. Yeah. But we grew up right out of there. So we were in Bakersfield all the time. And then with my dad, we would go to his station. We spent a lot of holidays at the station. And yeah. So Bakersfield, but we were like, no, we're not from Bakersfield. We're right out of Bakersfield.
I got you. Okay. So maybe we're not related.
Maybe.
Because I think it went
it's
back.
only an hour away.
Yeah. I think it was like, it went back to, I think even before my grandfather, there's family roots there somewhere. So,
okay.
So.
Well, but Campbell's my sister-in-law. So we still have a chance. We're cousins. Okay.
Very loosely related. I love it. You grew up with the guns and your father and brother starting a gun company.
Yeah.
Part of me is wondering, were they already doing a bunch of their own modifications to guns? And they're like, why don't we just start building our own guns based on our preferences?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. Not anything like crazy illegal or anything, but it's like
boring.
See, I know, right? Just sawing off those shotguns. But yeah, Jesse, they actually started as well painting guns, and they're very talented. They're cool. It's Alta Arms on Instagram, and they're really cool. So they did, like, Jesse does stippling for grips, and right now does precision long rifles, and so he starts with a B, something, the barrels.
Boring.
Yeah, I think he bores them. It's not boring to me, but I just don't know the words. And so he does a lot of long rifle stuff. So he goes to different matches and just promotes the business. It got to a point, because we were in Idaho now, in California, it just got to a point where you couldn't sell anything down there.
Sure.
And so I said I was the youngest of 5. So total, I think there's 27 of us in like our immediate family with siblings and babies.
Yeah.
And
wow.
so my dad was like really feeling a call to like take the family somewhere else, because,
Sure.
you know, California just was slowly declining, and it wasn't the place that we grew up in. And so we had friends in Idaho. So we were like really visiting just anybody who said their town was great, and he was looking at, you know, all of the things. And so we came up here, and it was like, it's just beautiful here. It's great. It was like California 30 years ago. It feels like everything's slow here. The drivers are so slow. It takes you like literally 2 months to drive slower, because you're just pissed off at everybody. You're like, why are you going the speed limit right now? Like, because it's the speed limit. But we made that transition from California to here, and then the gun business has just been great.
That's
really
awesome.
Great. Yeah.
In your bio on your website, it says that your nickname is Annie Oakley. And from what I understand, she was quite the shot.
Historically speaking, women are better shots. I don't know if it's just because they can calm themselves down, which is so funny because we're so anxious all the time. But just, I don't know. And so it's just not a practiced gift, but I can, if I need to, I can shoot stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I do an event called Winter Strong down in, I can't remember which, I think it's South Carolina. And I've done it only a couple times, but part of it, so it's basically like camp for grownups, where you go and do outdoor stuff, outdoor survival skills, shooting, archery, and it's like a mix between like strength and conditioning training and then outdoor skills. And anyways, one of the things is there's a range that I think the farthest target is 250 yards. And I was there with my brother and sister this year, and my sister, both on the pistol range and on the rifle range, totally outshot me. She was like, I think maybe I hit the 200. The guy said, like, the guy like was helping make sure like we were loading everything properly and everything. He's like, oh yeah, you hit it. And I was like, did I? I didn't hit the like the plate that made it spin or anything, so I couldn't see that. And was like, I think he was trying to just like move me along.
Like,
where my sister, exactly. My sister was just like, she was dead eye and stuff left and right. I was like, okay, so if she has a firearm, do not mess with her. So,
I love it.
It was cool. I was psyched. But what's funny, I guess not funny, but I wasn't super surprised by it because my mom grew up hunting with her father. And my mom was a great shot too.
That's
and
so cool.
she lives in Alaska now. She doesn't do a lot of shooting, but she does a lot of fishing. And she's quite the angler, and her husband go out fishing, and they're literally fishing in the same spot. She'll limit in about an hour, and he's got like 3.
I don't understand how that works. I've yet to understand how you could do that. That's crazy. In the same spot. I'm not a great fisherman.
I don't know what it is, but she kills it.
Good for her.
So
That's great.
When I saw that you were a good shot, I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Why not? I was talking to, who's it? Lucas O'Hare. He's Grizzly Forge. I don't know if you've met Lucas.
I haven't. I don't think I've met him, but I know him.
He said he loves teaching women to shoot because they don't have a lot of preconceptions. And they take instruction a lot better, where guys are like, I'm a guy and I should know how to shoot.
Don't like, tell me where to put my thumbs. Totally.
And so that's cool.
It's true. It's really true. Like, just tell me what to do. You know.
I also saw that you have the nickname Abie Stabby, or
Yes.
Stabby Abby.
Abigail.
Stabbigail. Okay.
Abigail.
Have you stabbed people?
No,
Where does
no.
that come from? Is it just because you make knives?
Yeah.
Okay.
Abby,
Abigail.
Stabby. Yeah.
I like
Never stabbed anybody yet. But
I mean, not, sometimes
yeah,
there's self-defense situations. You
you
never know.
got it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think maybe when I was younger with a fork, but that doesn't count,
I've only stabbed myself, I think, with a fork.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to eat too fast and just jammed it right into my gums.
Golly.
And then I also saw on your bio that you, in some sort of martial arts training or something, you choked somebody out.
Okay,
Who wrote
who
your
is
bio?
making my bio right
I don't know.
now?
I was like, who wrote one? It's
This
well
is
written.
not.
I don't know who wrote it, but it's well written.
It's probably my
Two.
mom and sister. It's not a specialty for me. Oh my Lord. Yeah, that's great. Okay.
Let's hear the
Great story. I
Okay.
was 15. My brother and his best friend just would torture me all growing up. Torture me. Like they would shove. Yes, they would shove me headfirst into a sleeping bag and then shove another sleeping bag and then sit on me. And so like, yeah, just like things like that. And then I would have to like control my breathing, be like, no, I'm dead. And then they'd be like, oh, shoot. So things like that, all growing up. Right?
Wow,
yeah,
that's a good.
I know.
I like how you
or like
played the Uno reverse.
Yeah, totally. I'm like, now I'm dead. So whatever. But yeah, like shove me into filing cabinets, all of the things that you could think a brother would do to you. That like chase me around with a dog shock collar, all of those things. But it got to a point where they would take my phone from me and change my passcode. And then I couldn't get into my phone. And so 15-year-old girl, I'm like, screw you guys. This is stupid. And so at one point I was on my couch. This has only happened once, thankfully. I was on my couch. My brother's friend was like on the ground. He grabbed my phone from me, turned around. He was like on his knees. And I was done. I was like, this is stupid. Jumped on his back, got him into a chokehold,
like a sleeper
flipped him over. So I was on the ground, right? So now he can't move.
Right.
And he was like pinching me, doing all these things. And I was done. I was like, you're done. And he's 10 years older than me, by the way. So I was 15. He was 25 years old. 25-year-old man. And so my mom's screaming, all the things. I'm like, no, you're stupid. And then finally I was like, I'm going to get in trouble because I'm not listening to my mom. So throw him off me. And he just is limp, like tongue sticking out of his mouth, drooling. And I was like, oh gosh, I killed this man for a phone. And so I'm 15 years old. I'm like, what is going on? He's literally drooling for quite a few seconds. And then he like comes to, jumps up. I'm like, did I just choke you out? He's like, no, because he still doesn't even know where he is. And then he's like looking around and like realizes. And then I just lost it. I'm like, I thought I killed you. And so it was very funny because he's like, you got choked out by a girl, but also I was like a mess because I thought I killed him. You thought you killed somebody. I thought I killed him. So yeah, then that's so funny that that's in my bio. We're gonna go through my bio after this podcast.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
just so you know, there are some questionable things.
Thank you. Good Lord.
Oh my gosh. So you've been let's see, what was I gonna say? So you've been making knives for how long again is it? It's been
I started getting started in 2017.
Okay.
And so it's been quite a few years. I don't think I actually like really got started till 2018.
Okay.
And then, that's when my books opened, and people, started wanting them. So how many years is that? 18, 19, 20, 20, 6 years?
Okay.
Yeah.
And I wish I could remember. I think I might have just came across your page from like the discovery page. I was like, oh, that's a cool
That's
knife.
Crazy.
And
I know when you wrote me for the first time, I was like, I've made it. This is crazy.
Oh.
And you're like, hey, What did you write me? You told me, oh, because I don't have good tongs for my
Sure.
oven. And so I just use my dad's welding gloves with literally pliers.
Yeah, adjustable
And
pliers.
so you were one of the many
Oh no.
knife makers that were, no, it's great because I knew your heart behind it. All the other guys were like, you can't do that. And you're like, hey, you should get some tongs. I'm like, I know, I need tongs. But yeah, when you wrote that, I was like, this is crazy. I just made it.
Wow. Well, that was a
Super
very
cool.
kind compliment. Yeah, and I still got to get you some tongs. Actually, I need to talk to Spencer, because they should be selling tongs with their heat treating kilns, because not
It's
everybody
true.
they should just like have a set of
Yeah.
tongs that come with the kiln standard, because you don't know. It
Yeah.
should just be a thing.
It should. My welding gloves literally smoking every time, which is so funny to me because I'm like, this is just where I'm at. I bought this expensive kiln and I'm having a smoking glove right now. It's very funny. Very funny.
Well, I apologize for being one of the many mansplainers.
Don't be. No, it's great.
I saw it, I was like, oh no.
I know.
She needs some tongs. We gotta. So, anyways,
It was great.
I'm working on that still for you. You
Thank
still using
you.
the pliers?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. I've got it down. Because I have my big gloves. I have to like push it out. It's a whole thing. It's dialed.
Okay.
It's great. And if anything, it just shows people that you don't have to use all the knife making tools.
Sure.
If it could be helpful, it's whatever. But yes, I will get tongs. I promise. At some point, I will use knife making tongs to make my knives.
They don't even have to be not just they could
Anything
be
else?
like barbecue tongs.
I should do that. Click them.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
The old
Time to flip the burger.
I love it.
Okay. So I have
Yeah.
a knife here. I believe
Oh,
this
gosh.
is your Nautilus,
Yeah.
which is a fixed blade.
Yes. Named it again the Nautilus because it looks like the Nautilus ship from A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I grew up with that movie. So yes, that one we just were leaning towards a more, and when I say we, it's me, my brother, because my brother has a lot to say. He's very he's the more yes, he's the more creative, talented one, and I'm like, he just gives me ideas sometimes. But and with guns, obviously, he's like tactical everything. And so he's like, we just need a little tactical knife that just looks cool. And so that little notch, I don't even know what that's called in the handle, if that is even called anything.
Where like the first two fingers go?
Yeah. What's that called?
I don't think anything.
Cool.
At least so as far as I know, I don't think it's called anything. It's just a kind of like a design feature.
Awesome. So that design feature we have there.
Yes.
It's just when you hold it, you can really feel, but it just not even locks your fingers into place, but it just feels like secure. You feel more confident. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, he's like, you flip this around and then you can punch and fight and do all the things because we're men. Oh my gosh, did I do that?
Did you do that?
I don't know what I did.
You were putting your hands up and then it like started automatically.
That's crazy. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Wild.
So next time you're excited about something, just put your hands
excited.
up and then it'll start.
Crazy. Oh my gosh.
I don't know what that feature is. I apologize for that. Okay. Maybe I don't apologize. It was good.
Oh man. Yeah. So
okay, so it's meant to be gripped with the blade either forward out of the front of the hand or blade coming out of the back of the hand.
Yes, sir. And then I've not tried it because I don't want to have to pay for it, but that thing on the back could be used as like a window breaker, or it's my dad again calls a skull crusher. It's anything you want, but
the egg cracker.
Yes, that one. Got him. Yeah. Still use CM154, which is such a good metal to work with. I love it. And then just straight over the plate, linen micarta handles.
Okay.
Super, super easy, straight over the plate.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, what is it about the CPM 154 CM?
Yeah.
What is it about the steel that you really enjoy? And then when you're heat treating it, well, actually, we'll just start there.
Okay.
What is it you enjoy about it?
Well, so because I grind after I heat treat.
Okay,
and
so it's full thickness at heat treatment.
Yes.
Okay.
And
how thick are your blades?
Oh God, this is the technical things that I am not good at remembering.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I can get back to you with that, but it's just, you can grind it after heat treat, and I love that. And
really nice thing.
So I was running into problems of just other makers or myself. Like I would grind and then heat treat, and then it was like, oh, your blade's a little wonky, and it's like, ugh, don't like that. And so it's been nice to grind after heat treat and know that like it's good. You obviously then you have to have a better control over like your heat. So I'm stopping a lot more to cool the blade down. But it's been working for me. Yeah.
I've ground once from full thickness on a blade, and I think it was 14C28N. And I was surprised at how well it ground.
Yeah.
At full and it was like the thickness wasn't like crazy thick. It was like just over 1/8 of an inch, like 0.1 something, whatever, whatever that 0.1875, just over 1/8. And it was good. It was cool. And I was surprised at how quickly I was able to grind it, or at least get it down to flat. With good belts, and I was just like, whoa, okay. I guess like for the longest time I was like, oh, I could never do that. It seems like it'd be such a pain to grind hard steel, or like hardened steel, especially with like if it's stainless, with the excess, or not the excess, with the extra carbides and the other alloying elements that make it a little bit trickier to grind. And I was just like, wow, this was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Very surprising. Yeah.
So, okay. And you get one of our questions. It's from Jeroen Knippenberg.
Ooh.
He is from the Netherlands.
Wow.
And I got to find his question again. Okay.
Crazy.
Call for questions. So, people, if you want to ask our awesome interview guests questions directly to them, you can do it through the Patreon. All right. He's asking. He says, your work is full of very crisp lines, nice swooping grind lines, or perfectly straight, flat grinds, hollow grinds, swages. Do you have some advice on how to get and keep those lines so crisp?
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you. That's crazy, because in my shop, I'm like, these are the wonkiest lines I've ever seen. So I love that they get straightened out. Thank you. So like I said, I use a jig, and also I'm right-hand dominant. And so it's a little tricky for me. So I usually start with my left hand, and on the jig, I'll mark out my blade, how high I want to go, how thick I want. And then with the jig, I'll just spend most of my time on that one side until I get like close to my finish grind line on top. And then I'll switch hands to my dominant hand, because then I can match to my non-dominant side. And then from there, once I get those, semi good, I'll just start and it's so tedious since I'm using a jig, but I'll do like 2 passes on one side, 2 passes on the other, until you're like back and forth, and then just constantly looking down the middle. I love oh, what's that called? Well, no, I guess I use sandpaper. I don't use the metal ball stuff. Totally make well, if you're using a jig, make sure your surface is like smooth. Because there are metal like shavings that get underneath your jig. And then it just makes it a little bit rocky, and you never know until you clean it and you're like, oh my gosh, how have I been doing this for so long? But yeah, just take your time. And for me, I'm like really great at comparing myself, and so I'll just be like, these people can, whoever made 7 knives today, and I'm like still on the smallest baby back. I'm like, this should have taken 20 minutes and it's taken, but everybody's different and everybody's blades are different. And that's what makes it custom. And we love that. And so take your time. Like you said, walk away. So sometimes you just have to walk away. Yeah, I wish I had like better detailed answers, but for me, it's like you got to walk away sometimes.
Do you draw any kind of guidelines on your blades?
I do. So
to help kind of figure out where you want those bevels to come up to and stuff?
Yeah. So it's super easy on the Nautilus because I just go to that point.
Sure.
And then that's just for every Nautilus I grind. That's how high I'm going on that grind line. So that's very helpful. And then I do use calipers, and I used to paint the blades, but now I just put Sharpie on my blade and then etch out where I want to go to. And then it always varies from there of, how thin the blade is at the bottom. And it's a good start though, to see that line.
Yeah. To have something that you work up to.
Yeah.
Because, and I think, and for me, in my experience in grinding, knowing how far to take things, not just in general where you want it to be finished, but even as you, progress through the grits from 36. I don't know where you started. I started at 36 and then 60, 120.
I should start at 36.
And and it, like knowing where to stop before progressing to the next grit, because you still have to take material off or have room to be able to take material off. And your belts can be surprisingly aggressive. Even up to 220 can be surprisingly aggressive. Yeah. And so it's like leaving room a little bit for every step of the way to be able to take some material off and still work towards that line, but not necessarily. But so many times I've like marked out guidelines and be like, all right, this is gonna be great. And then I'm just grinding. I'm in the groove. I'm like, oh, I took this too far. And then I have to like adjust the blade and like flatten it and stuff like that to push the bevels back down so that then I can push them back up and a higher grit.
No.
Taking your time, guidelines, taking your time. Yeah, that totally makes sense. When you do your hollow grind, I'm curious, do you just go straight to the hollow or do you flat grind it first and then then hollow?
Hollow.
Just straight hollow. Okay.
Yeah. I adjust my jig so that it's angled more, so it takes more off the bottom in the front half, so it's not just the middle, because hollow. So I do that, but yeah, I've never tried to do a flat grind before hollow. I don't know if that would be easier.
Sure.
What have you done that?
That is what I've done in the past, but that's because I didn't really know anything about hollow grinding, so I flat ground, and then basically I went with my hollow along that flat surface and just kind of tried to start in the middle of that flat surface and like push it up to that bevel at the top and push it down to the edge. Yeah. Do you mark out the thickness of your edge before you start? Yeah. Yeah,
I do.
So you
which
have
is
that
super
also,
helpful.
that visual guide there too.
Yeah. And then by the time I'm done, I'm like, am I seeing these lines? Is this? And so definitely using my calipers are my best friend. I'm like, what is real? I don't know. But yeah.
When you are doing your plunges, I think was part of the question is like keeping those plunges crispy.
It's so hard.
Yeah. Are you using it? I guess for me in the past, I've used when I was trying to keep plunges, what was I using? I was using like a Trizec belt because it's got some structure and some height to it.
Yeah.
So I could not only grind, but I could also bump into that that plunge to kind of cut not only the face, but also that plunge at the same time, just kind of like shoved it into there.
I should do that. I
don't know. I'm just making it up.
No, I love it
because
I just hang my belt over just a hair because when I do hit the plunge, it always takes it so much higher on the top. And so with that being hung over, oh my gosh, I'm doing so many cool things on this. I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't know what's happening either. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, so I just hang, this is so good. I hang my belt over, and I should do the Trizec ones. I haven't. I still, honestly, there's probably so many great belts that I could be using that I just don't know about.
There's so many belts.
Yes, so many.
There should almost be a belt convention where you literally just go around and grind on different belts.
I would go so fast.
I would too. Just like belt education.
Yeah, because you want to try a new company out, and then you get them, and you're like, shoot, like it's not the same as the other ones. And so, belt convention 2025, totally, I'm going. But I just hang my belt over, and it's either like the A30 or, I try to get it like when I'm grinding as close to that plunge line, and then just finish it up with the other ones.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking Blade Show should have the abrasive Oasis. And then it's just like
Alicia right now.
It's a circle of grinders with like basically like coat racks full of belts.
I love it.
But obviously it'd have to be outside. There's so much junk that would be coming off, dust and
it's
crap.
True. I know when Travis Wirtz grinds inside, I'm like, there's so much dust everywhere.
It's such a mess. Do you have so in your shop, do you have like an isolated grinding room? Or is your grinder exposed to everything?
She's exposed, which I've had I need to isolate it. Because I just have dust everywhere.
Gross dust everywhere.
It's always dust. But I also, since my section isn't huge, like I do a lot of finishing stuff inside my house.
Sure.
And so it's like I don't have to worry about dust for that finishing section of knife making. I do need to isolate it though, or just get like one of those big fans or the vacuums you see like over the top of it.
Sure.
I think it's on my Instagram, but my dad built my grinder.
I saw that. That was also part of your bio.
Yeah, probably. I swear, my mom. Oh my god,
mom's killing it.
She is working. That's for sure. Where is it?
Let's see. I got a picture here. It doesn't show the whole thing.
Oh no.
There might be a better image that shows more of the grinder.
Oh no, you gotta see the whole thing. Let me see.
It looks like it's a swiveler.
That's crazy. I don't know what I'm doing. That I'm putting I have my jig on right there.
Oh.
Yeah. That's the bottom of my jig. So
I got you. You're reattaching a blade.
Yeah.
Flipping it around. I got you.
I don't know if you're going to be able to see this.
Okay.
Should I send it to you? I don't know.
I can I'll find it.
Well, this is it.
Oh, is it on you?
Yeah,
if you email it to me real quick, I can pull it up in the email. With your grinder, when you're doing the plunges, do you Are your plunges, or sorry, the edge of the platen? Because I've done that too, where I've run
Yeah.
like a flexible belt off the edge just slightly.
Yes.
Are your corners rounded at all, or is it just like the sharp corner?
On my wheel, they
Oh,
were
right.
just sharp because the wheel is new, but now they're a little bit rounded.
Okay.
And then my platen, I mean, it's not super sharp, but it's
Sure.
not like rounded.
Yeah.
I think the belt has definitely worn it down a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that if the edge of my flat platen, at least if I'm trying to do a plunge with a flat
Yeah.
grind for whatever reason, which I basically never do, but if I'm
Yeah.
trying to do one,
Yeah.
sometimes the corner of the platen can be just a little too sharp, and it can just straight up slice the
Yeah.
belt.
Oh,
Because
it's the worst.
you're jamming hard steel into the
Mhm.
edge of a hard platen, not
Yeah.
necessarily hardened platen, but
Yeah.
sometimes hardened. And you're just putting a belt between a rock and a hard place,
It's
basically.
true. I haven't had a belt break on me yet. Knock on
That's
wood.
great.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll knock on
Yeah.
some wood.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've had lots of belts break, and it's not awesome. Especially when I'm doing I've had them, at least recently, break on me the most while trying to sharpen a curvy blade, because I offer a sharpening service, and I'm
Yeah.
usually using like a 220 grit or something like that.
Yeah.
And if it's edge up, it almost inevitably, especially on like a fillet knife or boning knife, wants to catch in the corner of that where the guard kind of swoops
Yeah.
down to the blade, catches in there and just blows. I'm just like, bah!
Oh,
It
so
scares the crap
scary.
out of me every time.
So scary. I
Yeah.
had somebody that was like, well, a lot of people that are like, hey, you should sharpen our knives for us. Like, you should have a sharpening service. I'm like, I do not trust myself enough with your knife to do anything good with it. It's so scary to me.
Is it like a restaurant or just people in the community?
Just community.
I got you.
My sister owns a restaurant. Here, I'm getting this picture for
cool.
you. And her chefs all the time are like, make me chef knives. And I've never done that before. And I'm like, I don't even know where to start.
They're very nuanced, but if you have any questions and you want to talk about it sometime,
then yes, we're talking.
I just realized I forgot to plug. I was joking about forgetting to plug in the microphone earlier before we started. I forgot to plug in my computer, and I think it's about to die. So I'm gonna plug that in real quick.
Get it.
Here I go.
I'm emailing you right now.
Boop, boop, boop. I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing, right? This is the plug,
so
right?
good. Just make sure it's plugged into the wall.
Mike, don't judge me too hard. Mike is Mike Poor. He's Red Dragon Forge on Instagram. He's always in there hanging out, and he is a very computer savvy person, and so I feel like I'm letting him down slightly.
Poor Mike.
How could you forget?
You had one job.
Okay, hopefully that's so weird. I wasn't even thinking about it, and
that's so funny.
I randomly looked up in the corner. I was like,
it's red.
Yeah, it says working battery. Source adapter is not charging. Why is it not charging? It says it's not charging.
Is it in the wrong one?
I don't know. It says it's still not charging. I don't know what's happening down there. Charging power strips on.
Grinder and jig.
It's not charging. This is weird. I have no idea why it's not charging. So I don't know how much time we have. It says I'm at 18%.
Okay.
Oh, now it's charging. All right, we're in business. That was weird.
So scary.
For a second, it was like, sorry. Not happening. Not happening today. I just did a hollow grind because I'm doing like a
Mike in the chat.
Yeah. Mike is saying, is it fully plugged in? I may not be good with computers, but I know, at least I think I know how to plug stuff in computers.
Oh man.
We got it, Mike. Thank you.
We're here.
I was doing a grind on a Loveless.
Oh,
And I don't know if you've seen the Loveless style, but they have like
yeah.
a nice radius in the plunge.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do that because
Yeah.
one, I don't hollow grind, and
Yeah.
two, those are also they're like always really clean and
Yeah.
perfect radius. I'm just like,
Yeah.
and so what I did with my contact wheel, instead of trying to figure out, I mean, honestly, I have no idea how else I could have done the plunge. But basically, I took my contact wheel, which had like really sharp corners,
Yeah.
and I just took a file and just like and rounded
Serious?
out the edge, which was also kind of sketchy because I'm running the machine. I tracked the belt over,
Yeah.
or maybe I did it from the backside, which is also sketchy.
Oh.
Dangerous stuff. I do not advise anybody do this. But anyways, I rounded off the wheel on both edges because you got to do it from both sides.
Yeah.
And I
Oh
definitely have a
gosh.
strong side too. I think I'm right hand dominant, and when the handle is in my right hand,
Yeah.
I'm a lot more confident and comfortable.
Yes.
My left hand's pretty good, but there's definitely a difference I noticed.
Yeah.
And I really like you were saying about grinding by starting with your non-dominant
Yeah.
and getting it pretty good or good with your non-dominant.
Yes.
And then because you're more confident and comfortable with your dominant hand,
You can just work
then
around
just match it.
Mhm.
Just match it up to that instead of
Totally.
because I forget to do that. And especially when I'm doing like my S grind or something like that, and I'll just naturally start with my dominant hand.
Yeah.
And then I'll be trying to do my left hand, and my left hand's like all over the time. I'm like, ah,
Totally.
I'm totally messing this up.
Totally. And it's funny how those change too. Like if you're working consistently, I'll have to switch back to like, okay, now I'm using my dominant hand first because my left hand's got it down. It's crazy. But it depends
and
on
it's like I think it's mostly in the blade grinding though, because when I go to the handle sculpting, like I've always done the handle sculpting symmetrically.
Yeah.
I guess I've always done the blade grinding symmetrically too, but my handle sculpting, especially if I'm doing like the faceted handles, I have no problem switching hands. I guess maybe sometimes I feel
funny.
I can't remember which one's dominant though right now. Anyways, maybe it's from day to day. It's a day-to-day thing.
Oh man.
Okay, so the Nautilus and I think it was the Nautilus that I saw, which is a sweet little blade. I'm going to talk about it for a second while I'm trying to pull up a picture of your grinder. The Nautilus is super cool, and I like. No, now I'm trying to. Oh, there we go. Okay, I was like, how do I do this? And I think that was the knife that I saw. That I was like, huh, what's that? And I pull it up and I'm like, oh wow, that is a really cool little knife. And that's what I first saw your work. And now you make a folder.
Yeah, the Nautilus flip.
The flip. But before we get into that, I'm just gonna pull up the grinder real quick so we can admire your father's handiwork. Whoa.
Amazing.
Okay, let's see. There's
that one and then the other one. So and you can flip it sideways too if you want to do any other. He's amazing. The first time we set it up, we were gonna do. It's called Whiskey Flat Days in Kernville. It's just like a fair, and we were gonna offer sharpening services to these fair goers. And this is so funny to say. By the grace of God, we wired the motor wrong and blew it up.
Oh no.
And so we couldn't do it because I was so not ready. We've got those little black pluggy those things, and you just flip that sideways, and he's rigged everything up so good.
That's a great design. It's a good looking grinder.
We've had people, they're like, make us a grinder. He's like, no, it's okay.
Is it aluminum?
Yeah.
Wow, I like that.
He could sell those for all day. He could sell those, but he's like, no, it's okay. Whoa. I'm good. It's Abby's.
The way that the table's attached to the wheel is wild. That is cool.
And so I can take my different wheels out there. I have my flat platen somewhere in that picture. There's my water bucket, my Maxwell.
That's your water bucket.
Yeah.
Dip. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good looking grinder.
Thank you. She gets the job done. It's awesome.
For sure. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Nautilus flip.
Yeah.
Where's the Nautilus flip come into the progression of your knife making? Yeah, I mean, you have the background of going to the what is it, the USN?
Yes. So progression. Oh gosh, I forgot about this. This is great. Was it 2021 maybe? I started working on the flipper.
Okay.
Maybe not. 23, maybe it was 22. It had to be 22. Because we're looking at the design and we're like, it just makes sense that would be a flipper. It just looks like it. And so we started working on it. Just asking so many questions from everybody. I've never actually been or like worked in anybody else's shop, and nobody else has like come to mind. So it's all just like calling and texting, hey, I screwed this up. What do I do now? What do I do for this? Like that, I've never worked with anybody before, like a knife maker. And so lots of questions from a lot of people. Brought the knives to, I found a rubber boa in my driveway. So cute. So we took the knives to Blade Show in preparation to sell them. And Bob Trezwola comes to my table, and he's so sweet. He's looking at it. He's like, hey, you are not ready to sell. These are not ready to sell. I'm like, okay. He's like, you need to take these off of your table. And I was like, we worked so hard. But it's Bob. And I'm like, Bob has my best interest in mind, you know, all the things. And so I didn't have to, but I did take my knives off of my table, and it hurt. But I'm like, Bob knows, you know, just all of the things.
Did he expand on that, or he just like left it at that and he walked away after you took it off the table?
No. He was very good. My lock wasn't great. Like my liner, because it's a liner lock, wasn't great. Oh gosh, this is so funny. This is so funny that I'm spacing on names of things I do every day. The bearings were good. It was, what's the little ball called in the liner?
Detent.
The detent ball. Thank you.
Yeah.
The detent was very, very, it wasn't in enough. And so it was like when you went to close it, you were hitting that detent, and then you were like closing it. But for me, I'm working on it every day, and I'm like, I think this is good. Like you just get used to how crappy it is. So I get to the show, and he's like, hey, we're not going to do this. And so I'm like, yes, sir. You know, you are Bob and I'm not. And so I am so thankful that he told me to take them off the table before anybody got them.
Yeah.
And we worked so hard the following year, and just improved all of the things that he talked about. And we changed the flipper tab. And I feel like they flip very nicely now. And I think I brought 15 to the next show, and I sold them all.
Nice.
Yeah. And we've been tweaking a little bit, you know, like trimming down the liner lock that, you know, it's not as sharp, slimming it, doing all the things. But it's a fun knife. It's super cool.
So this is one from the first round. Because I'm looking at the date. This is May 21. So that's just before Blade Show. And that was the one that Bob was like, it's
he's
not
like,
ready.
Don't do that. No, yep. And so
the detent was engaging the blade too much, or it was pushing it was pushing into the liner, or
so the detent, it was engaging the blade too much, because and our liners were a little thicker, and so when you're closing it, you're not closing it enough for that detent to not hit the blade, and it's supposed to
Yeah.
tap it a little bit,
Right.
But it was just,
Oh, I see. It was really
yeah,
rubbing against.
she was
I
like
gotcha.
hitting that blade, and then you're like, somebody's gonna cut a finger off trying to close this knife.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so we changed the flipper tap a little bit as well and made it just really smooth. I use skiff bearings. That it's a father and son who just they make knives as well, but they have incredible bearings that they're just top of the line, like so smooth. And yeah, it's super fun.
I guess I don't know anything about folders
Yeah.
and
Right, me
bearings and
either.
stuff. That's a lie. And so I don't know what makes it oh, this looks so good. I'm gonna share this one too. Because it just looks so good. This is a newer one. This is a more recent piece.
Yes.
And I love the liners on this one.
That's mine.
So this is a year later.
Yeah.
This is your knife. This is your
That's
personal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's nice. I like what is the liner material?
Okay, it's a G10, like G10 micarta.
Okay.
It's almost see-through. It's just, I don't even remember where I got it from. I think I got it at Blade Show somewhere.
Okay. That's cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it's still like base everything, but and also super funny, the first round of knives flippers we had just bought pocket clips, because I'm like, okay, people sell pocket clips, we'll just buy them. And
sure,
we had people, they're like, you make these. I'm like, I'm a knife maker, not a pocket clip maker. But
right.
But then we made our own pocket clips, and so and it's so they're really great because we got to design them and they work good and nothing falls out of your pocket. It's just so fun. Like you're a knife maker, but then you're like, oh, but you make a lot of other things too. Like you make everything work.
You're a parts maker.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's all the parts that go into building the knife. But so this pocket clip is one that you made?
Yeah.
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 That's super. I really like that knife a lot.
Thank you.
That's very good.
She's great.
Yeah. So a year later, you're ready to rock and roll. You sold all the knives.
Yes.
Did anybody try to buy that knife out of your pocket?
Yes. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it was, I feel like it was Lucas who was the first person, and it might have been a different knife, but because he was like, I met him when I didn't have anything. And so then he's like, I'll buy this. And I was like, you can't, it's mine. I don't have a lot of my own knives. And so I am still holding. She's my knife. I have people wanting it though.
That's great.
That blue is super cute.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Total side quest. And I'm probably speaking poorly on the women in knife making, but I've loved talking to like the really big manly men who like come to the table and they're like, oh yeah, and I'm like, but look at this cute knife, and they're like, knives are not cute. Like, that's super weird because this one's really cute. And like when you throw out cute in anything, these guys are like, no. I'm like, it's cute, it's a little knife. It's been super fun to just give people a run for their money. I'm like, it's be whatever you want it to be. Yeah.
I don't see the problem in calling a knife cute. I don't have a problem with it. So this is the knife that we featured in the calendar.
Yeah.
This is such a and is this the same knife photographed on different sizes? Two matching knives.
That's two.
So cool. I really love how I actually don't know how. Oh, I see. This was alternating blue and black layers, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
That is such a cool look in the handle.
And I love it, but also when I'm sanding it, because I really want to like show different parts of it, and sometimes the layers just don't show up like I want it to, and I have to just let it go because I'm like, it's supposed to not be, symmetrical.
Sure.
And so, but then once you set the knife down and come back, you're like, oh, okay, yes, I do like it.
This is good.
Um,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
no, it's very good. It has this look like it's been singed almost in a way and
yeah,
charred, but it's not
yeah,
it's not perfectly symmetrical, which I think
yes.
well, and obviously it's also two different knives.
Mhm.
But I think that speaks more of that organic kind of
Mhm.
quality or that look
Yeah,
of the thing.
that's
That's very
awesome.
nice.
There's a red one. It's the red and black. And what's that one bad guy's name from Star Wars? With
Darth
the
Maul.
Yeah, it looks like Darth Maul. I don't know if I have a picture of it.
I
I
don't
think
either.
I do.
Cruising through.
Let's see.
But
Darth Maul. Yeah.
and so I want to show this
Mhm.
one as well. So this is another one that you've been making for a while. Again, we're talking about your
Mhm.
knife models.
Yeah.
How did this design come about?
That is the Angry Bird because you know me and names. Looks like an Angry Bird.
Sure.
We just wanted to make something like a little more lightweight. And just that you could carry like your everyday carry. So I carry
Sure.
that appendix carry. And since it's so thin, and does not weigh anything, I use ulti clips. A lot of gun guys use ulti clips, but it just clips on. Like I can wear leggings and clip that on. I
Yeah.
also just want to make things for like girls that don't want to carry a big bulky knife, that they
Sure.
can carry something small. And so I love this for like self-defense.
Sure.
Because I think there's a video actually of me, I don't know, I
Choking
might be
somebody
wearing this.
out.
Yeah,
And
with that.
then
I think I'm wearing the same shirt I'm wearing right now, but it'll show you
so when you
just how
say
I carry it.
okay, I was gonna say is appendix carry. I would is that a cross carry? Like it's
Appendix carry is,
along your belt
yeah,
line,
so
kind of?
it'll just be like right here and you can just grab it up.
Yeah.
But I think I did something. There should be a video.
I'm looking.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Shoot. Yeah, and so that was just like more of like self-defense in mind. It's thin, so you can run with it. And yeah, back to fighter, you can fight with it.
I got you. I just realized that was a multi-picture. I wonder if one of the pictures was actually how you carry it.
Maybe.
Oh, so
Here
funny.
it is. What if I send it to you right now?
Like text or
Like a DM. Would that work if you're screen sharing?
oh yeah, it should.
And you could just click on it. Okay, let me
Yeah.
find it again.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to think. You sent it?
I think so. Oh, you know what? No, this is wrong. So sorry. I'm wearing my baby back though. That's how I wear my baby back. Okay. It's coming. It's just a picture.
I got you.
Okay, there you go.
So you have all these different models.
Mm-hmm.
What is like? Do you have more in the works? And I keep hearing you say we.
I do
Is it the royal we, or is it, or does your like other parts of your family or somebody else help with the knife making?
So resident knife maker. My dad. Yeah, there it is. So then you just grab that up. It comes right out. You can.
It looks like you might be wearing leggings in the picture.
I think I am probably.
Yeah, that's cool. It clips on very easily,
Yeah.
obviously.
That's cool. I do all the knife making. My dad is so good. He has that Haas Team one. And so I will give him my knife design and then he will use CAD and mill out the blanks of my knives so that I don't have to take it to a bandsaw.
Right. Like a CNC, like a water. So I just realized the machine you were saying. That's the name of the machine.
Yes,
so
a Haas
what is
Team one.
Okay.
It's a mill. And so,
Okay.
yeah, he just mills out my blanks for me.
Out of the
so that,
steel. Dang.
yeah, so I get a sheet.
Haas. No wonder
Or
it's
not a
named
sheet,
Haas.
but yeah, Haas. Big Haas. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll get sticks of the steel and then he mills them out. So they're mostly all like the same.
Yeah.
And then from there, I will flatten them, heat treat, temper, grind them, do all of the things. So Dad helps me with that. And then Jesse works we have, so when we bought
Jesse's
this
your
property,
brother?
yes.
Okay.
My parents got this property. It's so funny. We call it a compound. We're not a cult, but we all live together. And yes. And so the house that they bought, it's like apartment style. So 2 houses.
Okay.
So me and my niece rent out the bottom layer of the main house. And then my brother and sister there's a house lower on this property. That's Jake.
Yeah. Oh, it's Jake. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, but that's my other brother. We look the same and we both have mustaches. It's crazy.
When you both have mustaches.
Yes. Twinning. Totally. I took him to his first blade show, not this last blade show, but the year before. And he got a kick out of it. He loved it so much. But yes, so my parents have 64 acres in Idaho.
Oh, wow.
So we all are here and we have our shop that we run guns out of and knives. And so Jesse's just there to give advice and be another voice that I can be like, what the heck are we doing? And then,
sure.
Yeah. So when I say it's just anybody who's listening, anybody.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And I imagine maybe, or maybe not, but if you're going to use the mill to cut out the steel, you probably, do you use it to also cut out like the handle scales and stuff like that as well?
Yeah.
And so you can kind of machine all the different holes and the pivot and everything. Wow.
Yes,
that's so great.
So I feel like I'm cheating. Like I feel like a fraud. And I think, I know it's crazy. It's all these things I'm dealing with, but it's like we have the tools. And so why not use them to make everybody's lives easier?
Absolutely. No, I think, again, it comes back to like, how's the sausage made? Like a lot of people, what they want is a quality finished product.
Yeah.
How it gets there really doesn't matter, as long as when it's done, everything fits right, everything feels right, it's sharp and everything's where it should be. And I think honestly, the benefit to potential customers is that if some of your physical labor and time is taken out of the equation, that can help bring down the price in a way that helps make the work more accessible to people.
Totally.
And so when people poo-poo that, I'm like, you realize that's what's helping to make it like in your range, right? Because if they're spending hours doing all this stuff that like cutting out on a bandsaw with an angle grinder.
I know.
I'm so happy.
No, thank you.
I'm so glad you did that. That adds so much more value that you use that bandsaw. Telling you.
You're a real knife maker right here.
So, and again, like, I don't know. It's just people poo-pooing stuff when it's just like, can we find something more interesting to talk about right now?
Totally. And like when, like Fortune Fire, when it was like super popular. I'd have people, because there's not a lot of people that I know that know about knives. And so when I would be talking to them, they'd just be talking about like forging, and I've never forged before. I would love to. I don't have a forge. And so that's just where I'm at. But I would tell them, like, they're like, oh, so you make knives like Fortune Fire? I'm like, well, no. And so I'd tell them the process. And then my favorite line,
they're like, oh.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're not a real knife maker. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I am not a real knife maker.
Don't let them contribute to any kind of sense of imposter syndrome you might have.
No, it's so good. That fuels the fire for me.
Good.
Like, I'm not a real knife maker. Yeah.
That's I've heard people say that, and I'm just like,
Yep.
just because you forge something doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's good. In fact, you have a higher chance of messing things up
Yes.
by forging it than you do
Yes.
from stock removing it.
Oh my gosh.
It's so, I've done it. I've destroyed thousands of
No.
dollars of material forging stuff and
Oh,
messing
man.
it up. Then
So
just
hard.
stop moving it.
Oh,
It's
gosh.
so silly.
Terrible.
Well, and honestly,
So fun.
it comes back to marketing. You know,
Mhm.
we're marketing. It's in all tools. It could be the wrenches from
Yes.
Craftsman or something.
Yep.
Forged to shape, chromoly, blah blah. Like cool. So obviously,
Yeah.
forging makes things better. It
Yeah.
can, if it's
Yeah.
done right by
Yeah.
somebody who knows what they're doing, and
Yes.
even still
Yes.
can mess it up, right?
Yep.
Me
Totally.
including. I've totally done it. So
Oh man.
everybody, forging does not necessarily mean it's good. So I'm glad we got that out.
So good. Yes.
So anyway,
So many things to clarify.
yeah, I will say that I do a sharpening service
You do.
in my local area, and I only do it
Yeah.
once a month. I don't want it to be a big
Okay.
pain
Yeah.
or become a second job. But
Yeah.
it is, I do like that it helps contribute or helps the local community at large.
Yeah.
Because people are so psyched to have basically
Yeah.
a brand new knife. And I like the
Yeah.
idea of doing the sharpening from the position that, one, I'm helping to make people's kitchen work a lot easier, but two, instead
Yeah.
of dumping that knife or sending, like, whatever,
Yeah.
getting rid of it and then buying and kind of feeding the whole consumerism thing,
Yeah.
I'm essentially helping them to be more sustainable. Sharpening
Yep.
is a sustainability, an act of
Yep.
trying to create a form of sustainability.
Totally.
Because there's like a lot of the knives are like knives that people got as wedding gifts or something like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
they've been using them for years and they've
40
never had them
years. Totally.
never had them sharpened. I'm like, whew, yeah, let's take care of these.
Yes.
But I enjoy it. And even though I think often I find myself being like, rah, 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 rah,
Yeah.
it's not because of the sharpening. It's because I'm super disorganized and I have a lot of other stuff going on in the shop. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be sharpening today. Dang it. The sharpening is actually really fun because people are so psyched. They're so psyched.
That's so
they
cool.
love it so much.
That is so cool.
So if you can figure it out, or you want some any kind of input, I'd be happy to chat with you about
Sarah.
that.
I will.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't. I have one because I've never made a chef knife. But years ago, Will Selter gave me just a blank that he had made.
Yeah.
And I'm so scared to touch it. I'm like,
oh, it's still in blank form.
Yeah, just blank with a little handle. Yeah, I believe he forged it up. I don't know what kind of Damascus he made, but it's looks beautiful and it's not even made. And I'm like, I am so scared to touch it because I don't want to ruin it because I don't know what I'm like. It's so new to me, and so
you know what? You're not far from Will. You just schedule some time and go hang out with Will and be like, yo, let's finish this thing.
It's true. I think we're 5 hours away.
That's not bad. I'm 10 hours from there, or 11, I think.
That would make sense because I'm 5 hours from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
Yeah, you should definitely get together. I was just looking for his picture. You guys got a great picture together. I think must have been a Blade or something like that.
Yeah.
But I love this picture because not only does he just like eternally look like a young boy, like a little baby boy. He's like in his mid-20s now, maybe upper mid-20s. I can't remember. And he's a full-on adult, but he still looks like a child. Now, this was crazy. I guess this was 4 years ago. So he's like in his early 20s at this point.
I think that was when he gave it to me. He was coming through town.
Oh, he was.
Yeah. And
you guys went to the coffee shop.
Yep.
He's obsessed with coffee.
He loves coffee.
I just want to be fair. Will's an awesome guy. I love Will. He's a great guy. So if anybody thinks I'm giving too much of a hard time, it's because I love him.
So
if
cool.
I didn't like him, I wouldn't be saying anything. I just don't talk about people.
That's true. Yep. Totally.
So you're making great knives,
Mm.
and obviously it's slowed down a little bit because of taking the full-time job with
Yeah.
the church. Where do you see yourself going in the future with your knives? Do you want to branch
Yeah.
off from the culinary stuff? Do you have other kind of EDC or folding knife designs that you're excited
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
Obviously anything you're trying to like keep under wraps or whatever, you don't have to talk
Yeah.
about.
No.
But
No.
I'm curious where you want to go with this.
It shouldn't be a hard question, but I feel like I'm always changing.
Sure. Just right
Living
now
here,
then. Not forever.
yeah,
Just like right now.
yeah,
What's on your
yeah.
mind? Yeah.
Right now, I've got a skinning knife that I'm working on that needs to be completed. I think she's on there. His name is Leonard because he's a Skinner. And
Leonard Skinner.
yep. And just because we live in a mountain community
Right.
that everybody hunts and
Yeah.
everybody's outdoors. Like I'm an outdoorsy person, but then I moved here and I'm like, these people are crazy. Like
Legit outdoor.
Yes, legit outdoors. And so I think just catering to the community and like what people are wanting or need. So we have a lot of hunters here. And so I think the Skinner will do great. And then just like long-term, I haven't really changed my long-term goal, but I would love to just get like, I think it falls into your consumerism, but I would love to get, because I know they're like, my knives are like base price for custom. But I know that there are still people who can't afford that. And so I would love to eventually like get my knife or a design or a few like that have big companies like manufacture them and so they're able to sell at a cheaper price for people who want.
It sounds like you got to in with CRKT.
I'm trying.
Make it happen. Yeah, for sure. They should be psyched to have like the potential of having a woman collaborating with them.
Crazy.
Because there are a lot of women who are outdoorsy.
It's true.
And
there are
the dudes for sure.
It's true.
Yeah.
So that is just like a thought I have. I have not acted on anything,
I get you.
On it. But I think it would be super cool to just have that happen. And then I like with that, I think I can start branching out more into just having my designs, but making them not fancier, but just like more custom and like, because I mean, I feel like I have the base, but now I can just make that anything I want.
Yeah.
And so if it's different steel or handles or, all of the things, and obviously I don't ever want to stop designing knives. The Skinner's the last one I've done recently. But yeah, just like using what I have to, I don't know, make better. I forgot who it was at Blade Show, but it was just one of the people who have seen me from the start. I think it was Darren Sorois. He's like, you made it. I'm like, okay, so now what? He's like, now you get to do anything you want because like you're here. And I'm like, but I need direction because I don't know what I want to do. He's like, just do anything now. He's like, you have the fundamentals now that you know how to do like the base, and now you can just make it better. And so that's been super fun to just even think about like, what the heck? Like, I didn't think I was ready, but we're here. And so, yeah, I don't know, just baby steps. I don't have some huge plan. Just see where the Lord takes me. It's been so cool. Just the opportunity, all of the opportunities that I've had in this company.
Yeah.
And so, not company, community. Yeah, it's been so cool. And like not knowing, like the whole ignorance is bliss idea, like me
Sure.
not knowing who people are. I think because there's some people that are like, oh my gosh, this is a famous knife maker, and like they do the whole like fan freak out thing, which
Right.
I would totally do if I knew the people. But not knowing anything, I've gotten to make connections like with Bob or just different people.
Right.
That I'm just, they're like, oh, she doesn't know anything. And so we've been able to form like a friendship. And then when I talk about people to other people, like, oh, you know, this is what he said or whatever, they're like, how do you know them? I'm like, oh, we just talk. It's so fun.
That's great. I think that's a good way to think about it and go about things, especially when it comes to engaging with other knife makers.
Yeah.
I think people who I think there are definitely people who kind of feed into the, oh, you don't know who I am, or what, that kind of thing.
Oh, totally.
And sometimes that's a little bit of a red flag, and like maybe that's not necessarily somebody you do want to be engaged with.
Totally.
But I think for the most part, a lot of people are pretty humble. From my experience,
Absolutely.
there are definitely some people with some big egos, but otherwise, for the most part, people are pretty humble, and so it's nice that you can approach most anybody and just talk to them like they're literally just another person.
Totally. No, I love it. There was another that made me think of one of my first years at Blade Show. There was a booth, and it was called Abraham and Moses, Abe and Mo. And they were a sister company of a gun precision this is hysterical. This is so funny that I'm forgetting this. Precision trigger.
Okay.
Like huge in the gun industry.
Yeah.
Geisley automatics. And so at SHOT Show, we would go to Geisley, and there's like always like 5 layers deep, people swarming the booth always. And so it's just always a buzz. And so we go to Blade Show with Abe and Mo, and like 1 or 2 people are walking past their booth, but we knew them as, oh, they're just the sister company for Geisley. And so we're talking, and we're just, you know, they have great knives. They're testing that they did, you know, they're like throwing them out of helicopters, all the things that they're this is, all of these like tactical procedures. I don't even know, and I'm so new. And so we're talking with this guy for probably an hour and a half. And finally I looked down at his name tag, and it's Bill Geisley, the owner of Geisley Automatics. And I'm like, this is insane. Like he's just sharing his experiences.
Right.
And so we like exchanged numbers, and he would text me, and I would text him about, you know, CNC machines that he would run. And I'm like, what world am I living in that I know Bill Geisley now? And so I ran home with that, and I'm like, to my brothers, I'm like, you guys will never guess who I met. And then like at the next SHOT Show,
guess whose number I got now?
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, it says Bill, and I did not make this up. And so like at the next SHOT Show, like we made eye contact. I'm like, it was the total, I was just a little brat sister. I'm like, watch this, guys. And so like I see Bill, and I like wave at him, and he comes over, and I'm like, this is my brothers, and like I'm introducing them.
That's
and I'm
so
like,
funny.
this is so funny, just the people that you meet and that are so down to earth. Like so down to earth, so fun. It's
one of the big benefits of going to trade shows like Blade Show. I poo-pooed on Blade Show for a little while just because it is quite an expense. But after going for the last couple of years, I'm like, oh yeah, This
Yeah.
is actually a really great event, especially for the networking opportunities,
Yes.
because you might be on a path of trying to do all kinds of crazy stuff with like Bowie knives,
Hmm.
hunters, folders, whatever,
Yeah.
engraving,
Yeah.
inlays, whatever. And if you're like most people, you're just kind of doing it on your own.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of role models out there who are doing excellent
Totally.
work,
Yes.
but it's so hard to cold message them and and expect any kind of return.
Yeah.
But if you meet
Yeah.
these people in real life
Totally.
and talk to them, and they get a feel for you, you get a feel for them,
Yeah.
and from then on, you have maybe not necessarily a friendship right away, but you have an
Yeah.
acquaintanceship, and
Yes.
if they can be potentially become a person you can lean on
Totally.
later when you're going through this whatever you're working on, and reach out and be like, hey, I'm doing this, I've tried this, that, and the other thing, it's still not working.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice that I might try?
Yeah.
And it could be that relationship that you spent all that money going to Blaze Show and getting a
Yes.
hotel room, paying for meals and all
Yeah.
everything, getting a table, and that connecting with that person and having that resource is
Yep.
worth all of it, even if you
It
don't
totally
sell any
is.
knives.
It totally is. The conversations that you have in the pit
Yeah.
with people, like every year, and my parents come with me every year because they're just
Yeah, I
the
met your
best.
mom.
And
I think at least your mom the year I
yeah,
met you. Yeah.
yeah, and they're just the best, and they help so much. But every year we leave the pit, and me and my dad are like, that's why we came here. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you sell anything. Like, the knowledge and the relationships that we have now is just so worth it. It's totally
sure.
like that camaraderie and just
Mhm.
knowing you're not alone. Because sometimes when you're in your shop, you're like,
Yeah,
nobody knows what I'm going through. And then you get
for
there
sure.
and you're like, oh, everybody is dealing with the same thing I am.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, before we close it down, because I think we're
Yeah.
getting to the end here. Mike has a really great question about what kind of testing you do to ensure that your design is dialed in. So you know
Yeah.
that the D10, and maybe you've got data points you just work to
Yeah.
now, but what are some of the things that you do to make sure that the detent is pressed in deep enough, or that the bearing, like the tension on the pivot and everything, is tight enough but not too tight so that the bearings
Yeah.
are still rolling properly, or even just like in
Yeah.
your fixed blades, cut testing that you might do?
Yeah.
What do you do?
A lot of cut testing. I take, well, with sharpening, I take the knife down to that just wire edge, and then
Sure.
we have a cardboard wheel that we take the edge
Oh, yeah.
off, and then we just
Right.
spend, however long on that wheel cutting, until she's pristine. So that's what we do with our blades to make sure they're sharp. And then
Mhm.
honestly, with like you're talking about the bearings and all of that, a lot of taking apart and putting back together again. Like you put the knife together, it's great, and then the knife is crooked inside, and you're like, oh, what the heck? And so you're like, okay, now loosen this side, and so it's a lot of just working back and forth.
Mhm.
Yeah, the detent ball, like you press it in, put the whole knife together, flip it. You're like, ooh, no. Okay, do it a little more. A lot of just tedious, like all the little parts, just making sure
Sure.
everything match up. And I'm sure every knife is different with that. And then just our fixed blades, or my fixed blades. I just kind of going down the checklist and making sure like I did everything, all the big things. I'm like, did I go from like my belts, like we were talking about? Did I do those steps? And I want to be the person that just knows what I'm doing all the time. But then I get into the shop and I'm like, all right, what's my process? Because sometimes you just can't remember. And so having your checklist is so important.
Super important.
And you're
I'm right
like,
there with you.
yeah, like what grind am I doing right now? And so it's so nice to just have that, making sure you're doing your finishing, you're buffing your handles, or, wiping it down, or all of the things. I get every knife is so different, but just I think in the front, taking the time to work on your checklists and making sure you're going down. And then not a lot, but time is spent with, we do Kydex sheaths. And I call them holsters because we work with guns all the time. So I'm like, the holster. I'm like, not the holster, the sheath. And so I kind of want to steer away from that just because just dirt and grime gets in them, and then it scratches your blade. And so I haven't found like a solid replacement for like what the knives are used for. And then when I go back to like, these are utility knives, it's like, okay, they can get scratched, but I don't want them to. Yeah. And so because the Kydex, it's such a good lock that you can get in them. And so just, I'm trying to figure that out right now. I feel like, every knife is different with dialing in, but just making sure like all the little things are done. You know, your handles are buffed and the wire edge is off of the knife.
Right. It's amazing how much of a difference that makes.
Literally. And I am ashamed to say I have had a knife go out and be like, oh, sorry, no, give it back. We got to fix it because you're not cutting anything on that knife. And so, I don't know if that answered your question, but just going through, I mean, every knife is different. So you just have to determine what makes it dialed in and then go off of that, because you will forget it. Definitely.
Do you have, I guess, for checking like the engagement of the detent, like, do you have any way of measuring how much force is required to open it versus closing it and stuff like that, just to get a feel for that? Just kind of trying to help like Mike think about like the different testing, and if you have like a specific data point that you're trying to work to, that it requires this much, 5 or 6 ounces of force to push on the back to then kick out the blade or something like that.
Honestly, no. We have this. No, I should, and people probably are not going to buy knives after this, but we just have a press, and so we put our liner lock in, and you feel, you're like it, you feel the first one of that's what was good, and so you just mimic, and I'm thumbs up again. We're good. It's all like you're mimicking what you did that first time. And you mess up. There's probably a lot more room for mess ups with that process because it's not really a solid process, but it's just, you're just going off of what worked the first time
previously. I went to one production facility in Georgia a few years back called Southern Grind. And honestly, like, that was one of like the last, even after the knife was basically completely like, they were checking it, like how much force it took to open it and to close it and stuff like that, but they were still also ready to take things all apart and like push that detent in. And it's just like, I think it just comes down to just getting a feel and just being like, that just isn't it. I wonder if there's a way to set up, and like you said, every knife is different, and I'm sure even the thickness from between each liner can vary a little bit. But I wonder if there's a way with and I'm sure your dad's such an engineer, like he has to have thought of this, but like some sort of stop block setup or something like that, so you're always pressing down to the same height. And the only thing I think about, the reason I think of that is because like when I'm forging material and I'm forging it down to a specific dimension, I have to use like a stop block, or else I'll go too far. And if you go too far, and I'm sure compressing the detent too far totally ruins it. And that piece is done. You got to get another one.
Totally. It's not like I guess it would be a stop block, but we have a piece of steel that we measured out that it's the same thickness as the liner and the handle.
Right.
And then we put all of our screws through that, and then that's how we grind our screws down. And that's, I guess that would be the same as that as well. Yeah, stop block. I love that. I'm taking that.
Take it.
I'm running.
All right. Well, Abie, you're awesome. I'm glad that we had this conversation. There's so much more to get to know about you, and I look forward to talking to you more over the years.
Totally.
But I really appreciate you, one, being part of the calendar for sure, as well as being part of
thank you so much.
And yeah, it's just, you're doing great work, and I'm excited to see where you go with your work as you continue on your journey. And if I can ever be of any help, please don't hesitate to reach out.
I'm calling you.
Good. Where can people find you around the interwebs and shows that you might do in the future?
Yes. Only show I've ever done so far is just Blade Show. So I'll be there next year. And then my website is more of just a gallery, but it's ajblades.com. And then Instagram is AJ_blades. And I'll be there.
And are you currently taking orders? How do people reach out to you about acquiring work? Or do they join an email list? Do they just come to a show and buy it at the show?
Yeah, so my books are closed. I usually make knives in batches. My kiln holds 6, and so I usually do batches of 6.
Sure.
And then I just post them on Instagram, and people comment on there or DM me when they're available. And so I guess I don't know how Instagram works, but I know you can turn like your notifications on. That would be probably the best.
Okay.
For that. And then yes, obviously shows.
Excellent. Sweet.
Yeah.
I want to give one more shout out to the super sponsors this year or this month on the Patreon. Again, to be part of these conversations and to ask questions either in the live chat or before we do the interview and the conversation. Go to the Patreon, join at the illuminated individual level, which I don't know why I named it that. It's some days I can just rail it out, and other days I'm like, I can't talk right now. Anyways, if you join at the illuminated individual level, then you get to be part of these conversations. You try saying it cool. Fast.
Nope.
And so I just want to give again another shout out to Eric Kidwell at District 202 LLC, Josh Weston at Josh A. Weston, as well as at Dragon Forge EXP, Russell Tinsley, who is Oozle Finch Beers at Oozle Finch Beers on Instagram, Dan Hubbs, 66 Mountain Knives on Instagram and Facebook, Lawrence Lake of Maritime Knife Supply on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Maritime Knife Supply. Again, one of the sponsors of the Great Lakes Knife Show happening August 17th in Godric, Ontario. Go to at Great Lakes Custom Knife Show for more information on that. Then we have Gabe Fletcher of Anchorage Forge. He's on Instagram at Anchorage Brewing, as well as at Anchorage Forge. And then Tony Sasma, who we're psyched to have back as a super sponsor. He is TNT Forge on Instagram. Go check out his knife work as well as his cutting boards. This is a lot of fun. Dan, wait. Mike just added something. I wonder if Dan is 6'6", hence the 6.
Oh, 6.
He might actually be 6'6". Because so when I taught the class, there were 2 really tall guys. One was 6'6" and one was 6'7". So I might be getting them twisted.
No way.
Yeah, which is great. It's just super fun for me because I'm 5'8" and I'm like, whoa, look at you. You're even smaller, but I bet at the show.
I know, 5'4". It's true.
Yeah.
Wild. I need some of that. What's it called? Oozle Finch beer. That sounds boozy soda.
Boozy
and
soda.
I just love the name.
Yeah. It's very good. Oozle Finch. They're awesome. Thank you again, Abie. I really appreciate you being here and sharing your story and some of your insights in your knife making process. And you're the best. Thank you.
Thank you.